Jack, welcome to Almost Sound.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Nice to have you.
Yes, thank you a lot. It's nice to be here.
I have a lot of questions, of course, that I prepared by looking at your discography, your work, with your labels as well. I wanted to start with a very generic question, which I find interesting I always get it asked from people who are not into music. But if you meet someone at a house party and they ask you, what do you do? And you say to them, I'm a musician, I make music. And they ask you, what kind of music? How do you answer?
It's one of those questions that I always hate. I mean, you know, if it's someone that knows electronic music, I mean, I'll instantly just say techno, and then it's like kind of see their response, and then if I have to elaborate on it, I find it hard to say it in a very short sentence. But I guess what I usually say to people is it's an influence of UK and EU techno, and kind of merged into one. Let's say.
Do you find that it's easy for you to think about a genre, what people call a genre, let's say, whatever, hypnotic techno, and then say that's what you do? Or you think for you is a bit broader than that genre?
Me personally, I find it broader because I find that all of the stuff I'm making, it's like, I think I've got a signature in terms of like the sonics and how everything would sound. Like the mix down, for example, what could define your kind of sound as a producer would be similar. But in general, I try to stay away from saying like hypnotic or groovy techno or something. If there is one word I would use, I would probably say raw.
Raw techno.
But yeah, but that's more about my production process, really. But I try and stay away from these kind of like trying to label something like really hone on. If you do know what I mean by that.
Yeah, I do, and I think, tell me if it's different for you, but I think that sometimes when you say, oh yeah, I make raw techno, and people associate it with something that might be true or might be actually not true, that's just their interpretation, they immediately like, maybe they're like, whatever, and they don't care about your music anymore because they think that's,
Yeah, they like put you in a box.
Exactly.
You know? And it's also like the same as when you go to like a record store or something and you see like, if I just see the word techno, I'll be like, okay, cool, I can just dig through all of this and kind of like find whatever. But as soon as I see like, if I'll see something like hypnotic techno or like groovy techno, I mean, not that you'll see groovy techno in a record store, but maybe you do. But if I saw that, my mind immediately goes to like a box, you know?
Yeah.
And it's the same with people. Yeah, they put you into a category, but it might not be the category that you kind of meant it by.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I also like trying to figure out a way to escape it. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
Well, I find a nice way to escape there.
Yeah, I'm usually really like open with that. If someone asks me, I will just say, yeah, I make techno.
Yeah.
Then if they say what kind, I'll say, well, I'm influenced by, this artist or this label or what. I can name like influences, but I don't want to try and seem like I just do one thing.
Yeah.
Because in my music, as honestly, it's changed a lot over the past few years. So
yeah. And that's the other fact, which is like, as an artist, you evolve a lot. Like your music has changed over the last 10 years or 5 years. So defining it as one thing and people will remember you forever with that, it's very reductive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with, I know some producers and DJs that just say like, I just do this. Yeah. Which is cool, like, I'm like, you don't get bored?
Amazing. Yeah.
But no, I really respect people that can do that because it's like, okay, like, I just like this, I just like to DJ this style. I'm like, that's actually impressive, to be honest.
Yeah. In that respect, for example, I mean, like thinking about your production, you've been producing for how long now?
From the very, very beginning, it would be about 10 years, from like maybe 11 from when I first started getting into it.
Okay.
But my first release didn't come until 2017 or 16 or so. Oh wait, no, sorry, 2015.
2015, yeah.
That was my first release. But in terms of making music, it's been about 10 years.
Yeah, it must have been like a big process and changes. Like when you look back at your first releases, how would you consider your music has changed until what it is, the latest release?
So the first releases I did were on a label called Species, or it's kind of written Spec. It's run by Darwin, who runs the Reef parties here in Berlin. But it was when I was living in Bristol, and we got in touch. And it was still techno, but it was more it was more on the kind of UK broken beat style. So there was a few bits of 4/4 on. There was always one 4/4 track on each of the three records I did, but the other tracks were more sparse, broken beat, maybe a bit of a kind of old Surgeon influence, but with a bit more of a cleaner sound. So I had 3 records on that label in that same style, and then I moved here, and I was already really into, let's just say 4/4 techno at the time, but I wasn't really making a lot of it. But then when I moved here, and obviously started going to clubs more and seeing more of the DJs I wanted to see that I didn't have a chance to in Bristol, it just fueled inspiration and everything to start making more kind of straightforward stuff, which is then when I started the label with Cami, Unterwegs, to release more of this stuff. That went on for a period of time, and then during COVID, my sound really changed. It went from being quite overly processed and more, I was using outboard gear, but it was more processing inside of, like, in the box, like maybe just recording a little synth line and then resampling it and everything. But during COVID, I got very into jamming and more into the kind of live takes of making music. Yeah. And that's more of what I'm releasing now.
And how much of that was like a conscious choice, and how much of that was maybe, I don't know, you were home, I assume you were home more time, you were alone more time, you just started playing it, you figured out the process?
It's a good question. I would say it actually came more from being a bit bored with the way that I made music. And I'd done a couple of releases on Unterwegs that I was really happy with, but then when I sort of continued this way of making music, I kind of... also when COVID hit, I had a massive kind of like writer's block for ages, as I'm sure most people did. And to get out of that, I had to kind of find a way to get out of that. And I met up with my friend Toby, who's Rosine. And we met up and had one session for, I think it was a 3-hour recording session, and essentially made an album.
Wow.
Which we released actually on Frameworks, which is another label that I have. And that one jam session completely changed my perspective on how to make music.
Crazy.
And that's how I got out of it, basically.
That was before Framework was a label you guys created together.
Yeah. So Frameworks came as a result of this like jam session.
Very cool.
Which we ended up having another one, so we did 2 jam sessions, which eventually became an album. But the first jam session was like the first 5 or 6 tracks from that album.
Wow.
And that just completely changed my whole view on how I should make music, and I should stop worrying about all these little details, all these little like surgical EQing things, and just let the music be the music. Like if it's good, it's good. If it sounds good, it sounds good. And it blew my mind actually. And then since that point in COVID, so this was in 2021. Was that COVID times?
Yeah.
It
was like second year of COVID.
Yeah.
COVID started, let's say, February, March 2020. Italy was like one of the first countries, February 2020. By, I would say, 15th of March, Berlin went in lockdown, UK went in lockdown a week before.
Yeah. So this must have been when I met Toby, also for the first time when I met Toby.
So you did a jam the first day you met?
No, we met up for a beer and then we had a jam afterwards. Okay. But the time I met him for a beer, we just talked about making music, and then we decided to do it. But this must have been in August 2020, something like this. And then the jam happened like in 2021.
Wow. Yeah. Some months later.
Yeah.
And for context, what was your process before the jam?
So I had a lot of hardware in my studio, which I was using, but it would be more recording very short kind of loops of stuff. So, let's say like, you record your kick pattern and your percussions and a basic synth line that you do a few kind of little like filter tweaks on the synth on. But then I would mostly be doing the movement of that, of the track inside Ableton. I wasn't very confident with like pressing record and like just jamming out a whole synth line on a track, basically. So it was more just recording, let's say, samples and loops and then arranging that in Ableton and
Yeah.
processing it all fully in Ableton as well.
Yeah, so you were using external instruments as a like basically sampling them and then using them as components of the tracks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And you were, I assume you were doing that in arrangement mode. So it was all in clips, but then recording.
Yeah, I don't use the clip mode.
You don't?
No,
So
no, no.
arrangement straight.
Always just the arrangement mode, because I came from Logic,
Yeah.
and
so-
I can use the clip view, and occasionally now I use it a bit, but like I mostly will just go straight to the arrangement view and just
yeah.
start on that screen.
Yeah. And through this process that you were doing for many years, then at some point you were bored about the process itself. Yeah, you were not enjoying it, I guess.
Yeah, it didn't fulfill me. I mean, it did for a bit, and then after a while, I would open up Ableton and just be like, oh, this again. Like, really, are we really doing this? But I don't think COVID helped with that. I think COVID more like deepened that kind of like, what is my relationship with music right now? Because I can't listen to it in a club. I can't go out. I can't gig or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Super tough. Tough time for everybody, also for artists. And then you do the jam with Rosine, and what happened? Like, have you figured out what shifted in your mind in terms of the process?
So yeah, as I was saying, it was like a 3-hour session. I think we did something like maybe even less, like 2 or 3 hours. And we just like I have a mixing desk in my studio which only has 8 channels, so you're immediately limited. And we just plugged like one synth. No, 2 synths. It was a Prophet Rev 2, a SH101, and then the 909 on some separate channels with maybe a reverb or something. I can't remember exactly what reverb or whatever, but and then we just pressed play and press record and said, let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
Just see what happens. Like, I'm not even thinking about making a track. I'm just going along with the flow. And yeah, we just recorded for like something like 2 hours and listened back, and we're just like, this is good. Like, you know, you don't even need to think, but you just know it was like, this is good. And we were just both completely blown away, because it's both how we weren't making music at that point. And yeah, we just decided to release it. We were just like, you know what, let's just like not do anything to it and just like put it out. Like, it sounds good as it is. We're both happy with it. And that process was just like, it opened my mind. I was just like, okay,
amazing.
Well, why am I kind of screwing over like these little minute details that really no one's going to hear in a club? And I should just let the music breathe a bit. Yeah. And just like these synths. One thing that really came to mind was that these synths I have were not meant. They're meant to be used as an instrument. And sometimes I compare it to like a guitarist in a band or something. It's like when a guitarist is playing live, like they're just deep right into playing their instrument, and it's whatever comes out is kind of the magic of it, even if there are a couple of little like weird errors or like things that kind of weren't supposed to happen. And that's kind of what makes the magic in the music. Yeah. And this is basically the process change, or the thought change for me with my music, was just let the mistakes be there. Like, let it breathe, let it be alive, you know? Yeah.
And maybe there is also a component which is, I don't know, if you're arranging it, you go there with your mind. You try to make decision based on what you think should work or shouldn't work. You think about the theory and then you execute. With the live, you're feeling first, and then you're thinking second. Just, I want to add something. Maybe I can put a hat, right? And then you just change it. But the feeling kind of drives the process. Yeah. The thinking cannot stop it, you know, it just enables it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like trusting your instinct. Yeah. And like, your instinct is actually like not just in music, in life. It's a like really powerful thing, you know, and like you should, in my opinion, always follow like if something feels good and feels right, and it's your body's telling you, like, go for it. And this is kind of that, in that realm with music. It's like you said, if this feels good and I want to drop a hi-hat in when it's not really supposed to come in terms of like bars or beats, put it in. Like, just whack it in. Like, I mean, okay, there's a fine line, because some, you know, as a DJ, I also struggle with that sometimes and think, okay, it does have to, you know, the kick has to come in on the first beat, not the second or something. Yeah. But so that we did a tiny, actually no, the album was completely, we didn't do those kind of minute adjustments with the album actually, but in my own music I do still make little kind of adjustments like that just for the playability of it. But
for DJs, right?
yeah, it's kind of making it a little bit more DJ friendly. But the album was not recorded or meant in that way. That was more like, here's a piece of music.
It's a live take, yeah.
Yeah.
Super interesting, because I think about this a lot. Like, this keeps happening. Many people that I speak with, for me too. Sometimes you have this instinct. I need to make this track. It just comes from you,
Yeah.
And then you end up making it, and it makes no sense, but it makes sense. It just sounds good,
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, like music is so subjective. Like stuff I like, other people won't like stuff you like other people won't like or whatever. But I really believe in your own music. If you really like it, like that's the telltale sign that there's something like special to it,
Yeah. The challenge that I face for me or for other people that I speak with sometimes is that you have them, like your minds, for example, you're making a track. This was happening to me a lot, and I spoke with other people and told me, man, it's the same for me. You're second guessing what you think the person you will be sending that track to. So you kind of like say, I want to make this track, I want to send it to whatever, this person. They will never like it. I need to tone it down or remove this synth or add this synth. And then you end up like doing a lot of changes over time. And then the initial idea and instinct gets butchered completely. Like and then the final track actually doesn't sound even more, like it doesn't sound better. It sounds technically better, but sounds nothing like the first version.
Yeah.
And it loses a lot of the thing.
You lose like all the character with it. And this is also something like I think it's important with mix downs as well. Like the way that I think you can mix down a track can either make or break it. Also, like mastering can also really change the character. And like, sometimes I have to, when we sent off that like album to be pressed, we had to make some notes to the mastering guy and be like, you might find that some of the levels like spike up and down a bit, but like that's kind of the point. Like, so don't compress it too hard. But yeah, like it's the character, and like like you said, if you're in that mindset of like, oh, I'm sending it to I don't know, a certain type of producer who makes a certain type of sound. If you're trying to like tailor something you've made to that, it's not really you. It's not like you anymore.
And so did you manage to successfully move out from second guessing and toning down what you want to do? Maybe with this process, did you feel free that now whatever you're producing?
Yeah, I find it easier. I mean, I don't do live sets actually. Okay. So even though we did this like jam and this album as a kind of, I guess it kind of was a live set in a way. Where I don't play live in a club or anything. I just DJ. But it has made me more free. But I still struggle with certain elements of it when I'm on my own, because you've got two pairs of hands. So I can't. Like some of the magic in the terms of the transitions we did on that album are so good because two people were like synchronized and doing it kind of just without thinking. But when you're doing it on your own, you've got to just record one synth kind of at a time. Yeah. Or maybe if it's just like over a simple bass line, you can record two. But so that I have to do things in stages. Yeah. But in general, I would say, it's made me a lot freer as a producer, like 100%. Very interesting. And you seem to me, like from what you release, very prolific already. Like how many of, maybe let's put in percentage, how much of your production gets to release? Ooh. Like 10% or like? It's a bit more than 10. More than 10. Like 50, one out of 6 maybe. I'm going to say around 50%. 50% gets around 50. Yeah. But then because what my process is, if I've got a track that maybe I just can't finish for whatever reason, like, or I just don't want to finish it, it's just a loop that's nice, I'll actually usually just make it into like a locked groove. And then I have a big folder of like 100 locked grooves or something that are just like unfinished tracks. So I mean, I would say maybe they're kind of like half finished in a way. Yeah. But in terms of like stuff I'll release, maybe it's a bit less than 50. Maybe it's around like 35, 40% or something. Yeah. And do you tend to, let's say you work on a track, you record it live as much as possible, and then do you listen to it immediately and make decisions, should I finalize this track and release it, or you let it sit for a while? I need to finish tracks quite quickly. Otherwise, for me, the idea or just the thought process of having to go back to a track like multiple times, I don't like it. So I usually, what I do is in the first session of making a track, I'll finish the arrangement, or at least it's 90% there, you know. The next session would be maybe just tweaking that and adjusting it so it's kind of like 100% arranged. And then I will do a very, very quick mix down. My mix down is, for me, pretty much already done by the time I've recorded it in. It helps having a mixing desk for that, which is, helps having a really nice mixing desk, actually. But I don't like to kind of make too many changes to how it sounds after. Because, I mean, okay, there's certain things you have to do. You know, if your sub bass is super low and it's clashing with the kick a bit, you know, I'll have to sort it out. Yeah. But I don't, like some tracks I've released, they don't have any plugins on them anymore. They just have maybe a little thing on the master, tiny bit of correction EQ if something was really harsh, and then it's done. It's getting better with time, like you don't need to process more and more because you probably now have experience in your ears are tuned to what a track should sound. I mean the studio that I share with Cami is very like it's treated really well, so that also really helps. And like I've made so much music in there and listened back on headphones and like other systems to the point where like if like I know what I make in that studio sounds like what it's supposed to sound. Headphones? Do you produce with headphones at all or no? No. Only out, I actually can't. I find it really hard. And again, I'm super impressed by anyone that can do it. But I reference on headphones. I have a pair of in-ear like noise cancellation buds. Like, like not the Apple ones, but like some other knockoff brand. And they're not very expensive, but I kind of know them so well that I'll reference stuff. But actually making a track. I did buy a pair of headphones once. Bayer Dynamics. 770 or something. Okay, 770. No, I don't know this one. They're like a studio like headphone. Should be flat, or frequency response should be flat. Yeah, but like every time I put them on, like the thing that throws me is the reverb. Like when you put a reverb on stuff in headphones, like it sounds amazing. Yeah. But then like you go and listen to it back, like, and you're just like, what? Yeah, it didn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like that. So yeah, I know. I tried a handful of times, but no. For me, I need the speakers, and I don't like feeling kind of enclosed in headphones for making music. I need to kind of feel it a bit, and fair enough. And also, I think what you said as well is that you know your studio so well that is your listening environment. You're used to that, how that sounds. So that's your reference point. Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like, I mean, one thing I would love to be able to do is if I was traveling, like, be able to do, like, because I know some producers, they do mix downs on, like, planes, or they make tracks on planes. Yeah. And I'm like, how? Yeah. But one thing that has crossed my mind is, like, you know, like, touring a lot outside of Europe or something, and you don't have access to make music for, like, 3-4 weeks or something. How would you do it? Yeah. How would you do it? But then, again, like, maybe I would just use that as to have a break as well, and maybe I don't need it, but... Yeah. Do you have a weekly routine? Like, for example, do you go to the studio certain days of the week, certain hours, or you keep it a bit more free? It depends. It's fairly routine at the moment. I mean, I share the studio with the Lady Machine, and so we have days where we use it. Like, my day would be, I don't know, for example, Monday, and her day would be Tuesday or whatever. But like I mean, she's touring a lot, so I end up using it a bit more. But I don't mind having a routine with it. I mean, one thing that does sometimes annoy me is having an idea at home, and then to actually go and do or make that, or try and make that idea is, okay, I've got a cycle of 20 minutes, or maybe Cami's using it today, so I can't use it, or you know what I mean. But to be honest, that doesn't happen so much. Like if I have an idea that I really feel like I need to do, I'll somehow like speak into my phone or something and hope that when I get to the studio I can try and recreate it in some way. But actually that's not really how I make music, to be honest. Like I like to go to the studio depending on what my mood is and just kind of saying, okay, let's see what comes out today. And you know, I struggle. I guess one thing I'm not super good at is making music to a concept, which is maybe for like an album thing, it would be something I'd have to consider. But really, I just like to go and portray my kind of taste and vision on what techno I like, and just base it upon how I'm feeling on that day.
Yeah, and then it becomes like you just put yourself into the situation where you can play with your instruments, record everything, something will come up.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's terrible. And like, actually, that's one really important lesson I learned is that even if it's really a track that you don't like, or you really don't think you're going to release it, just try and finish it anyway. And when you get into that process of finishing a lot of music, it really helps to speed up your workflow, actually. And then when you are making something that's really good, you can really make impulse decisions very quickly and get stuff done.
Yeah. Because it informs the decisions, as you're saying, right? The next jam session you do, the next live session, the next recording session you do, it will be informed by what you're done, by closing the track. Yeah. I think also mentally it helps you kind of move on to the next one. You don't feel like you have a lot of like unfinished stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like that's kind of also going back to the point with how I used to make music. I used to have so many projects that were not finished because, you know, I'd be getting bogged down in like compression for 4 hours or something. And when I changed over to this other way of working, I finish probably 90% of the stuff I make, maybe even more actually. And I'm not saying like we said, I don't release it all, but at least I don't have in the back of my mind, I've got like 20 unfinished projects, I should probably work on them. Yeah. And then you never end up working on them, and then that can kind of subconsciously play on your mind a bit, you know. You're like, you're a loser. You're you're rubbish. Like, why are you doing this?
The self-talk that destroys us, you know.
It's true though. Like,
it's true.
It's so true. Yeah. And like, I mean, like that was one really important lesson I learned. The other one was record everything. Yeah. So like, even if you're just noodling around, just make sure it's recording, because you never know if you could use something inside that recording that could fuel another idea or something.
You need to have a lot of hard disks. A lot of like storage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's my computer? It's 1 terabyte.
Okay. And you're still, it's enough?
I put everything on the cloud. Okay. The cloud has a lot more than that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think, it's no, maybe it's 2 terabytes. So, wow. Yeah. So that's quite a lot actually. Yeah. And then I have the cloud for like backups and
older projects, I guess.
Older stuff, yeah. But I actually decided to delete all of my older stuff the other day.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I kept the tracks that were released.
Okay.
The projects of the tracks that were released, but everything, like I'm talking about unfinished projects from like 7-8 years ago. I was just like, I'm never going back to this. So I'm just gonna get rid of it. Like,
yeah. Very interesting. How do you decide what gets released? For example, let's say April, you have worked on, I don't know, 10 tracks, maybe more, and you do you go at the end of the month, look at all the tracks you have made so far, and then select the ones you think can be released?
For my own labels, or maybe for another label, or both?
Both.
I guess for my own labels, I'll sit down, because I don't run my own label just by me. I'll sit down with my label partners, and we'll go through the tracks, and then they'll give their opinion, I'll give my opinion, we'll find a kind of common ground. If it's sending to another label, which I'm not the sort of person that would go to, like, you know, send my tracks out to like every label. I just have a few that I like to work with for now. Usually I will just send them everything. And I don't like to send them like more than about 10 or 12. So like, because I think if you're doing an EP, they're gonna pick 4 or 5 tracks most. So I like to give them a bit of variety to choose from. But at the end of the day, even if all the tracks were kind of similar and they had asked me for demos, I would send just maybe the most recent 10. If I just made 10, I would just send those 10 and say, look, I can, if you like them, then great. And if not, then I'll make some more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't kind of, I mean, I always have a vision in my mind what I would like the release to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I will always say that to the label as well. I'll say like, look, my picks would be these in this specific order.
These 5 tracks.
Yeah, but here is a group of 10.
Very cool. Yeah.
And yeah.
And so, I mean, you release on many really good labels like Emotic, Plus, Key Vinyl, Tarallo. Like, how did you develop a relationship with them over time? And so now you said you would send to one of these label owners like 12 tracks. Was it like that also at the start? Or it's something you developed because now you have released with them, you trust each other?
So now it's like just how you said, that it's kind of trust. Like I'm very grateful to those labels for believing in what I do. So I kind of want to stick with them if they'll let me. Of course, if they'll let me. But yeah, like I kind of like, I like working with people who are really into what I do, and those, I mean, those 3 labels, they really have been. But when I wasn't released on them, I mean, Amatic is a really, really good friend of mine.
Yeah,
and
he's fucking great.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy, and I think he just asked me. Like I always send him my unreleased stuff anyway for him to play. And then like every time I've sent it to him, I've seen his set, and then he's played like 5 or 6 of them. I've just been like, okay, it's just turning into like the Decka set now. No, but it's been really helpful because I can't play my own demos at the end of the day because I only play with records. So unless I have a test press, I can't play it.
Wow. Yeah.
But with Ammo, it was very, very chill. It was like, you know, he just asked me to, would you like to do a release for me? You send me all these demos, like and then I was like, of course. Tarhallo, that came about, I think I'd released the number 4 on Unterwegs, which is the red one called Splintered.
Okay.
It was just, I can't remember the year now. I think it was 2020, I think. It's kind of, maybe it was 2019, or it was somewhere around this area. I can't remember if it was during COVID or just before, or just in the middle. After that, that release kind of was the release that kind of got picked up a bit wider, and Thanos just came following my Instagram, and we just chatted, and then he said, if you ever want to send some music to Tarhallo, then feel free. And then I think I mailed him back like within an hour with like, oh yeah, here's some tracks.
Yeah.
And then that literally became the release. He just said, I think there was a pack of like, I think it was about 9 or 10, and he picked 5. So that was super easy, but then I've had a really good relationship with Thanos ever since, and I'm gonna do more stuff
with them,
which will be upcoming soonish on that label. With Alessio, with Key, I mean, I've known Alessio now for a while, and again, just musically we get on, and also a really good guy, and very supportive. I think me and Toby actually sent him tracks that we, like some of those album tracks that we did, and some extra ones. I think I actually can't remember the exact way that it happened, but I think either he asked us or we'd mentioned we were doing some music together, and I think he was really interested in hearing it. So we just thought, okay, well, let's
do it.
Let's give it to you first or something, and then he chose a selection to use for Key.
Very cool. Yeah.
So it's all very natural, and I like that. I don't like
forcing
my way into something when you're kind of like maybe trying to sell yourself into that. I like to work with people who are more like, let's do it. Come on.
Yeah, especially if they have been supportive of your music, either promos, unreleased music, or the actual record that you released. I think it's nice because they would send you a message to say great music. You would thank them for supporting it, and then at some point with some of them you will connect naturally. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and like it's that natural for me. It's that natural connection thing that's really important, and it's how you kind of grow as a community, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sending your music to like other labels if you don't know them. I mean, I have done it in the past, but I just found it's nicer and more rewarding to work with people who like really take an interest in you and a support in you, and then yeah, you're kind of
Yeah, for sure.
supporting each other at the end of the day, you know.
For sure, and yeah, and I love that. I think there's so many people. Amotik, yeah, Anil is one of them that is always listening to stuff that people send to him,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have to. You know, it's not given.
Yeah,
It takes
yeah.
10 minutes after.
Could just put it in the trash. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, no, but yeah, he's really inspiring with that. Actually,
So much.
He takes a lot of time to actually, yeah, really listen to the music that he's being sent and really support. Like all the people he's releasing on his Amatic Plus label. Like some of them are, you know, really up and coming producers, and he's giving them a space
Yeah,
to release their music on. And
yeah, Camellia, Arthur Roberts. I think some of the names that you released recently.
yeah,
Dakota.
So I
Yeah.
think he's got another one. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who's being
Okay.
released on it, but like, no, but there's another one. But there's another one coming up with like, also some Berlin-based people that I think it's really nice. He's giving a platform also
Yeah.
to people who are in Berlin as well
Yeah.
to get their voice heard.
Yeah, it's true, and I think it seems like, I mean, he does it from a good place. I think.
Yeah,
very
no,
very
no,
nice guy.
really, yeah. He really does.
And then let's say your record on Unterwegs or Frameworks gets released. How do you promote it? What's a very good way to promote it?
Ooh, I'm not the best at this.
Tough question.
No, I can answer the question, but you know how like a lot of labels, they do like PR promo campaigns where you
From
send
an agency, someone that helps
yeah,
you.
like you pay like X amount of euros to like be sent to DJs.
Yeah.
Or I've done this in the past with Unterwegs, not with Frameworks, but we've done it in the past with Unterwegs, and I think like you get some cool stuff from it, and like it reaches a decent amount of people. Maybe some DJs you wouldn't normally get the chance to send music to would go there. I think that's cool. And sometimes you get like, you know, radio picks and
Yeah.
like podcast requests and stuff like this. But I have to be honest, right now both labels are completely no promo. Obviously, okay, we do a little bit on our own social media. Like we announced the Unterwegs number 7 today, and it's just a picture of me and Cami holding the record.
Congratulations.
But yeah, I kind of stopped. Okay, there is another reason why I stopped paying out other people to do it, which was that pressing a record costs really have gone up a lot. So you have to. Yeah, I mean, if you pay for a 400 euro promo campaign on an EP, it's really adding to the costs of pressing a vinyl, which then you have to sell it for more in the shops if you want to make your money back, and yeah. So that's maybe a part of the reason.
Yeah.
But also, I might get belittled for this, like slated for this, but I don't know if it makes any difference in terms of sales for like a techno EP.
No.
Maybe if you're doing like a house EP or something, or maybe something that's, or like an album that's like maybe quite conceptual, or even just an album in general. I think it's good for an album, but for like a techno EP, like I don't think it really makes much of a difference. I haven't noticed a difference when I stopped doing it for sales compared to when I did do it.
I don't know. I've heard very mixed feedback. It's one of these things that like you can ask 10 people and they will have 10 different advices. You know.
Yeah.
For me, it really worked. For me,
that's also the thing. Like some releases can just like take off.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
for some reason, but like I personally haven't noticed any difference in terms of the records selling worse when I've done a PR promo thing or any better. It's basically the same.
Yeah.
I mean, Frameworks, we actually like we've never done sort of even the album. We actually just announced the album and then it came out. So I think we announced it on the release day. We just said, "Oh yeah, here's an album."
Here we go. Then, which I mean, is so. I mean, I guess it depends. If you want to make money out of it, if you want to get gigs out of it, if you want people to listen to it, you know, if the purpose is for you to let that thing out, that came out to you in such a pure way, you did almost no editing in the album.
Yeah.
That's already like it's done. You know, your
Yeah,
job is
I
done.
guess that was maybe we could say the concept behind it, right? Yeah. So it was that was maybe the concept behind it, but like with the Unterwegs stuff, even like like I said when we did it, I don't notice any. I mean, also okay, like I only ever tried out like 2 PR places.
Yeah.
And like I was not unhappy with it. I thought it was good. Like especially the DJ promo stuff. I was like, oh cool, it's reaching many DJs I don't have a direct contact to, you know. And also some of these DJs, they trust the promos that come from these specific agencies, you know. So I'm not saying it's pointless. I completely get it, but like when I saw there was no difference in the sales for me, and I was like, well, yeah, because mostly the people who are buying my music are like, or buying whatever we release on the label is, you know, like maybe DJs in Berlin.
Whom you know or know your music from previous releases probably, or know you personally, they got interested in the music.
I mean, maybe, I think you're right though in terms of saying like, it, depending on the way you look at it, if you're doing the label to really grow yourself as an artist, to get gigs, to become more widely known, then I think it definitely is a benefit if you can afford to do these kind of PR promo things. Yeah.
It doesn't always work though. I mean, yes, no. I think it can be benefits, and I've heard like also recently, as you mentioned before, I think things have shifted, and I've talked to promo agencies as well who do promos and PR. And for example, you know, this, I still can't understand why. Like one of the PR agencies I spoke with before, they were saying that we don't do albums anymore. We do other singles, so like 2, 3, EPs of like maximum 3, 4 tracks. And they were saying the albums are more harder and harder. And I asked why, and I still didn't get an answer. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want to know why.
I want to know why too. Like I have hypotheses, but for me it makes no sense, because in the end, if you're sending one email to a whatever, like a BBC or someone that does a radio show, in the end for you is one email instead of sending them 2 emails for the same. If you split the album into EPs, you would need to send 2 emails. But for some reasons, for them, it makes more sense to have shorter releases. It might be because, I don't know, people are short, they have a short attention span.
I was going to say,
maybe. So if you're asking someone to listen to an artist, unless it's a famous artist, if you're asking someone to listen to 8 tracks, it's harder for them to say, oh yeah, I'll take a listen, than if you send them a single, maybe, right?
It's a good point. Like, I'm surprised that that's actually what's happening. Because I would have thought it'd be completely the other way around. That if you're doing an album, it's easier to do a kind of PR campaign on it, like, and actually get more kind of traction. Yeah. Because usually that's, I mean, from speaking to people around who have released albums, that's usually what they do. They say, okay, the EP is on my label, you know, we do a simple DJ promo, but for an album, we'll do a bigger thing, you know, like a campaign that lasts for 4 or 5 months or something. And I'll be like, well, yeah, that makes sense because it's an album that you want to push it.
It's more important in theory, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, maybe to the artist, it's more of an important thing. And yeah, that's kind of shocking, actually.
Fascinating. I need to investigate more. And like, do you release also on Spotify? Do you use Spotify at all?
Kind of begrudgingly, I've put everything onto I'm in the process of doing the back catalogue of Unterwegs onto Spotify and everywhere. I mean, okay, I say begrudgingly just because I'm not a fan of it, but I have to say, actually, to give the music a wider kind of reach, it's really not a bad thing. At the end of the day, like, I think me included in this, that people can be, well, we're in very privileged positions to be able to afford records. Yeah. Because in other countries, it's, and just in terms of how much things have gone up in price, it's not accessible to everyone at the moment. Or people have to be more selective on what they buy. And actually, I had this kind of big thought about like a year ago, and it was through conversations I was having. It's like I am a big vinyl advocate when it comes to how I play music and what I want to. I don't release just digital. I will only release a record just simply because I can't play it otherwise. But I don't want my music not to be heard or played or given the chance to be experienced by someone who can't afford a vinyl and they can just afford to buy a digitrack instead. And that actually really kind of changed my perspective on it. And I was like, okay, actually, maybe it's not a way to even make more money off it. I was just like, actually, I want more people to experience this label actually, and to open it up into that digital world is the best way to do that. And to be honest, like, more people than ever use Spotify to find music these days. I mean, I actually do use it, funnily enough.
Yeah.
I don't do my main digging there, but like I do, if the track is available digitally and I want to buy it, sorry, as in I want to buy the vinyl, I'll cycle around Berlin and listen to the digital to kind of make sure that I do really want to buy this, you know? And so I'll never release just digitally, but from now on it's gonna be both with the labels.
Part of it.
Yeah, and they come out at the same time, digi and vinyl. I was thinking about doing it like 1 month after the release or something, but I thought, whatever, I'll just put it all out at the same time.
You give people the option to choose whatever is good for them.
Yeah, and again, it really doesn't hurt the vinyl sales. Yeah. Like, I noticed that, because that was also a bit of a reservation I had about it, was like, well, if it's available digitally, are people really going to buy the record? But really, it doesn't have any impact. Yeah. Again, which shocked me a bit, but...
It's interesting. It could be also because the people who buy like vinyl, it's a very specific audience. They would buy the vinyl anyway. It's not just because it's the only option.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And I had a conversation with someone. There was like I can't remember the name of it. There was like a kind of a music conference festival here in Berlin. It wasn't Superbooth. It was like one that's more related to the like Spotify and things like this. And I went there and I was having a conversation with someone outside and I was like, I run a label. And he was like, oh, what's the label? We exchanged it and everything. He's like, I can't find it on Spotify. And I was like, oh yeah, because it's not there. It's vinyl only. And then he looked at me like,
come on.
And I mean, that's not what, but that actually sparked my kind of thinking on it. And then when I talked to some other friends and people who are more involved in that digital realm, it just became clearer to me. And also, like I already said, I wanted more people to experience it anyway. So
and especially because I mean, you running to the independent labels, you can only go as far as your distributor goes, right? You cannot. I don't know if you distribute into India or US or Latin America, but imagine your music would not get the chance to be there unless you are digital, right? Because if you're distributing vinyls, very few distributors based in Europe would then distribute on the other side of the world.
Yeah, so, like I think you're even lucky to get into anywhere like the US, really within EU.
Shipping costs, customs, like just too much.
Even on Bandcamp, like one record to be shipped with tracking to, I sent one today actually to Argentina. I think it was 22 euros. Shipping with tracking, something like that. And if you
I assume it's more than the record.
Yeah. And it's more bright. It's actually like almost double the cost of the record. And I think if you go over sending like 4 or 5 records in a pack, it goes up even more to like 28 or something. So
it's crazy.
But yeah, like you said, with digital, at least it enables all these people who wouldn't normally get the chance to hear it to actually hear it and get it.
Yeah. Do you think, from the perspective of someone who plays with vinyls, I think. For techno, for our genre, let's say, does vinyl still have more value? Is it perceived as more valuable, a release that is on vinyl compared to a release that is only digital, for example?
I think in general, I don't know. I think there is still something about it where like, but then again, this is only coming from my perspective. When I see it, like when I see it's on, and maybe this is a little bit of a smaller vision on it, but when I see it on vinyl, I do subconsciously maybe take slight more of an interest in it. Like I'm also quite bad with listening to like promos. Yeah. I mean, I just get, I can't go through it all because I get sent way too many. I do try and get through it and I think I'm about 3 months behind at the moment, but like I do try and get through it. But yeah, when it's on vinyl, like I think in general, there is this little bit more like seriousness about it. I don't actually necessarily think that's correct. But I think in terms of a general view on a release, when someone sees it on vinyl, they do immediately think, oh, okay, well, maybe this is cooler. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, because at the end of the day, there's so much really good music that's actually just on digital, and I come across it all the time, and then I'm kind of like thinking of writing to the label, can you just press me a record?
Please.
Okay, there's so much good music on digital, but I think that's kind of maybe a bit of an issue at the moment, is that if it's not on vinyl, some people kind of turn their nose up at it or something.
Yeah.
But
yes, I mean, obviously, you only play vinyl, so you need to find it on vinyl. So
yeah,
it's different for.
I mean, my choice of playing records purely comes from, I learned with records.
Mm-hmm.
I have only ever had turntables at home. I've never had CDJs at home. I've never had a way of playing digital music at home. I've been buying records for over 10 years. And I tried actually to move over to CDJs, and I did DJ with CDJs for about a year.
Yeah.
When I first moved to Berlin, actually, in 2017. 16, 17, I was actually changed over to digital. And I actually found myself falling out of love with playing.
So the reason is because the touch, or?
I'm a little bit hyperactive, and I like to be busy. And I found with CDJs, even when I was trying to mix with 3, I never tried with 4. I was too scared. But when I tried to mix with 3, I still was just like, this is so easy. And I could feel myself kind of changing. I remember I had a gig, I can't remember where it was. It was here in Berlin. I can't remember where. And I actually was, towards the end of the set, I was like, I don't think I'm enjoying this that much. And maybe I was playing really bad music. But like,
I get it. Yeah,
as a personal thing, I was like, I miss having that kind of like hecticness, but under control hecticness of mixing with vinyl, and like struggling in the booth a little bit if the sound's not super good, or like just having to always touch up and get things back in time. I just genuinely think because I'm used to it, I'm a way better DJ when I mix with 2 turntables, and that's that.
Keeps you very focused.
Keeps me really laser focused, but I actually just enjoy it. Like, and I think if you're not enjoying something to the full extent, then why continue with it? So yeah, I gave up after like that gig of playing with CDJs. Went back to the records.
Like done.
Yeah.
My career as a CDJ.
I tried. I failed.
You tried. At least you tried. You know?
Yeah, I gave it a go, and I've done a couple of podcasts, which were with CDJs, and that was fine. Because there was a period where I think it was also during COVID, where I did like 3 podcasts or 4 in a year, which is quite a lot actually. But and I kind of did the first one with vinyl, and then when the second one came about, I was like, okay, I can't play the same records, so I've got to like actually play some new music or some unreleased music. So that was another reason why I was playing with CDJs for a bit. But
yeah, but I think, I mean, you said something that for me is super important, which is if you don't enjoy yourself, then the gig is gonna suck, the preparation is gonna suck, the experience for doing it's probably is gonna suck too. Why would you make your life shittier? You know?
Exactly. We want to live happy lives.
Exactly.
But yeah, and this is why I have no issue with how someone plays music. Like, I don't care if someone's playing CDJs. I don't care if someone's playing on turntables. I don't care if Sleep Archive is playing with a laptop. Like, it's what comes out the speakers that's the most important thing. And and enjoying it. And and exactly like you said, if you're not enjoying it, like, you probably shouldn't be doing it in the first place. So and when I went back to mixing with vinyl in clubs, like, I was like back to my happy place.
Wow.
So
well, so I have two questions. One is, do you have any pre-show rituals, like for before you go into a set? Recently, I actually meditate a little bit, just for 20 minutes maybe, or 10. No, not 20 minutes, like 10 minutes. If it depends what time the gig is though. I'm not someone who will like have a beer before I play. I'll have a beer whilst I play maybe, but recently I've actually not really been drinking in general actually, but also when I play I've just kind of cut that out, which I think has also helped.
It really depends on the set time. Either I like to try and get a nap.
Yeah.
If it's like a really, like if you're playing at 5 a.m. or something, or 6, I will nap and then go to the club. Hour and a half before, I like to kind of get familiar with the surrounding, listen to the DJ playing before me, and then do my thing. So I guess that's a ritual.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Going to the club at least an hour before.
Yeah.
To hear what's, get the vibe of the party.
Yeah. Have you had recently, or even like, in the past years, like any crazy situations, any fucked up shit that happened when you were playing?
You know what? I haven't had something in a while. Apart from like one person like putting their hand on the vinyl, just like stopping it. Like, okay, but you didn't like that track, did you? But I think they were drunk and they just kind of, because they kind of went like, oh. And I was like, well, yeah, these are playing right now. We're not using the CDJs. But I know, honestly, I haven't had something crazy happen. I mean, there's been scenarios where like, maybe the equipment doesn't work. They've had to like really quickly switch it out or something. When I was in Cape Town in February, at the end of the set, I had to play like everyone was like one last tune. So I ended up doing 4 one last tunes because they wouldn't leave.
Amazing.
I guess that wasn't crazy, but that was kind of a nice thing. And then everyone was like, apparently, like that party, they usually the person or the DJ's last track was something like different, like electro or house. And I just went straight in with like an old Fan and Flowers like track on Consequent Records from like 2001, and it was like really hammering. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is the last track." I was like, "Whoa!"
You weren't there.
And everyone was so taken aback by it because they thought something like a disco record. I think someone even shouted like disco or something in the crowd, and I was like, "No!"
One more. You can take this. You get this.
But then that resulted in like 3 more one last tracks, which was kind of nice.
This is the best outcome you can decide for.
Yeah, but no, nothing like mental's happened. Like, I don't know. This could go into another topic where maybe like I don't find parties as mental as they kind of like used to be when I first started going out. Actually,
tell me more in terms of how people interact with the performers, the DJ, or
yeah, I mean. Yeah, and also just like, I mean, okay, like I guess this also really depends on the club you're going to and the city, but like just in general, I find that parties seem to be quite tame.
Yeah.
Like, you see all the, I mean, okay, it's a completely different time period, but you see like videos of like, there was a video circling around Instagram of Sven Väth playing at the Love Parade, and like, the party was wild, and but like, it's a completely different time period, like, it's completely different political things going on and whatever.
Exactly.
Which definitely plays a part. But yeah, like just in general, I just don't think parties are as like crazy anymore. But yeah. My perspective anyway.
I immediately thought about what you alluded to, which is also like political situation. I don't know what that video was from, but probably 90s, something, 95, 96.
Yeah, I think it might be 98.
98.
Something like this. Yeah, I need to check. But
I guess, assumption is less social media, less availability of shit happening in the world. People, and also like 98, people are like, oh, the internet, fuck it.
Yeah,
people just like
the internet.
dropping pills and doing their own shit, like nobody was thinking about wars at that time, I guess.
Yeah, that's
economic boom going toward the technology revolution with the internet coming up before the first bubble. Now we're in a world where like every 2 years there is a crisis and the world gets shaken by war, by something else, by a crisis, disease. It's a very different thing, I think.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what's happening like externally in the world, and you can't compare now with like the 90s, but it was just as an example, but it's. Yeah, I just don't. No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And also in Berlin, we're very, very lucky and privileged to have an amazing club scene here, and also there's amazing scenes in like places like Amsterdam, and even when I was in Cape Town, it was a very small scene, but it's awesome and it was really exciting. Yeah. But yeah, just in general, I think we just live in a very different world compared to then now, and
It's not like as carefree, I guess. Like people are you know, a bit more thoughtful about everything, and yeah.
Yeah, and also like I don't think you could run something like Love Parade right now without there being multiple health risks and like. I mean, at the time must have been like 5 years old or something, but yeah, it's just a different world, and I still think that the parties now, like, it still really inspires me. I still really love them.
Yeah.
I haven't lost my love for clubbing like at all, but yeah, it's just different.
Yeah.
Different. I think people always can't let loose like that anymore because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Do you feel, for example, if you go to Berghain or you go to another club that you like in Berlin or somewhere else, does that give you a lot of inspiration for your music?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the biggest inspiration from a Berlin club for me for techno was Tresor. Because it was actually, I visited Tresor before Berghain. And when I moved here, for my specific taste of music, I was going to Tresor a bit more, actually.
Yeah.
Now I probably go to Berghain a bit more than Tresor. I find it it is a very inspiring place. I mean, I've heard a lot of my music in there, which also, like I was saying earlier, when I send tracks to Amatic, and he's playing in there quite a lot, and then he'll play them in there, and that can be very rewarding and inspiring as well. But it's the community aspect I like a lot about Berghain, actually. Is that, like, I've met some amazing friends in that place, and developed really good connections with people in that place, which makes that side of it very inspiring, and also the music as well, of course.
Yeah.
But just, I wouldn't like to narrow it down to one club. I mean, I don't just go to Berghain, I don't just go to Tresor. I actually go out to many different places in Berlin, and when I go away traveling or touring or whatever, I like to try and see what the experience of clubbing is like in that place if I've not been there before. And I think it's also very good to not just limit yourself to, I go to this club every week and that's that, it's like there are some other amazing spaces out there also in Berlin.
Yeah, you mentioned before Volt, the promoters, the party in Cape Town. Yeah, that was a big discovery for you. It was like a very nice party, good environment.
Yeah.
Excited.
That was awesome, really, and like as I was telling you earlier, they've really developed a community of people that go to the same. Okay, it's the one club, so they do go to the same club every week. But yeah, like, the same people. They were telling me, like, the same people come to our parties. It's the same crowd who are bringing new friends and different people with them, and everyone was just up for a really, really good time. And it reminded me of parties that I used to kind of go to when I first started clubbing.
Well, you kind of get the same people, and then it becomes like a circle, a community. Yeah,
it really felt like this is a hub of people that are really trying to make something happen. And also what really impresses me is, like, and I should have maybe done my research before I got there, but the residents that they have playing for that party is, like, some of them are amazing.
Wow.
One of them is like, I can't remember how old he is. He's a producer called Justin Nell. He released on KSR.
Okay.
I can't remember how old he told me he was, but he's like super young. He's like 22 or something. But such passionate people who are really, really into, like, just really into music, and like, the resident DJs were phenomenal. I went to the club from the beginning of the party.
Yeah. So you listened to all of them.
So I listened to the two people who were playing before me. One of them was called Dino, one called Fair Trade, and I can't remember the other one. But I was like, wow, the sets are sick. Like, and it was just super nice to hear really good music from start to finish from really, really passionate people. Yeah.
And that I think, there is a lot of other places of cities, countries that don't have 30 good clubs that make a program. They are more scattered. They have maybe one club that makes a genre. And I think I always find it amazing when you find these communities and you get the chance to play with them, and for them it's just incredible. You get to see what they've created.
Like, I end up making, like, people I'm still chatting with like most days,
Yeah.
like over WhatsApp or whatever. Like we really like bonded, you know.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Which is amazing, and I think that's actually one of the most important things about this whole scene in general. It's like, even if you are, you know, top tier DJ, and you've been booked to play at a club or a festival or whatever, like, I always try and make an effort to go and meet. Like, I'm a big fan of artist dinners.
Yeah.
And like, you know, meeting the crew, like developing a nice connection and like, yeah, just enhancing the whole community side of it. I think it's very important, and I think people are very conscious of that in general actually now, which is
great.
Which is really great. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a question about, for example, if you ever found being a producer and DJ challenging, maybe financially or emotionally, because the environment around you wasn't supportive enough, and if so, like, how did you overcome that situation?
That's a really good question. I mean, there's been periods of like financial struggle for sure. I mean, okay, I've also been in a decent enough position to be able to afford what I do from having like a day job alongside music. That hinders me also to some degree, where I can't always put all of my focus on what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I think now I have a healthier balance with it. Like I don't work like a full-time hectic job every day during the week. But emotionally, COVID was the hardest, I think. And also just the rise in social media can sometimes have a really dampening effect on you. And it hasn't got to me as much as it maybe has got to some other people who I know. But like, you know, when you see like, I don't know, it becomes almost a bit of a breeding ground for competition.
Yeah.
And
comparison, for example.
Comparing, yeah. And like I'm not saying like, because I think competition can be good sometimes, a bit healthy competition between like maybe a group of like friends who are all making music but sharing ideas and kind of there's one thing that just popped into my mind was I listened to a podcast recently of it's on Scuba's podcast, and it was with DJ Crust, and he was saying about how him and a few other producers in Bristol, where I'm from, were kind of they were always sending each other tracks they finished, but trying to better one another. And that kind of competition, I think, is super healthy.
Right, because it's like everybody's getting better out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And like everyone's still supporting each other, but in a way of like, oh, I just made this killer track, top it. Okay, fine. I'm gonna go to the studio and
I would support it.
Yeah. I'm gonna go to the studio and like, oh, shit, I gotta make a really good track. Like, I think that's healthy. But when it's comparing, you know, like yourself to someone else, it's like, oh, why is this person playing 20 times a month when I'm only playing a few times a month or whatever? But I think social media it can really enhance that, and it can.
Right. Yeah.
It can. I luckily have been able to block that side out of it, and I kind of don't really mind what goes on around me. I'm just doing whatever I want to do, and but I can see why that. And during COVID, I think this, just going back to my point, during COVID, I think that was a bit of an emotional time for anyone, obviously with what was happening, but because during that period, so many more producers and DJs kind of came out of that it became an even more oversaturated kind of place, which can lead to more kind of unhealthy comparing mindsets.
Yeah, completely. And how did you block it for yourself?
I have a timer on my phone that only allows me to use social media for a certain amount of time a day. No, but also, how do I block it? That's, I mean, a very generic thing that is just turning notifications off on my phone so that I don't feel the need to check things like all the time. But also, there's no other way I can put it other than just not giving a shit. Yeah. I just don't care about it I just don't care about it anymore. Like I'm doing what what I like to do, I'm kind of focused on everything I see positive and think is up my street in the scene, and I kind of just, I don't know, I just somehow block it out. I don't know if I have a proper straight answer for that. It's, I can't really explain it. I just don't have my focus on it.
Yeah, very important because then allows you to focus on your music, and again, the healthy competition can be on producing instead of like the recognition that you get or might not get, which might not be related to the way you make music. So I think if you unlink yourself from, oh, I need to get numbers and likes, you just focus on, I want to make another track that I feel happy about. I think it's much better.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do is when I go to the studio, I usually put my phone in flight mode and like turn it over or something, so that I'm not distracted by anything that could come in on my phone.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I even just like leave it in my bag or something, or which can help.
Do you feel like in general with your music and DJ career and the rest of your life, you have a healthy balance, and healthy relationship with everything that is related to DJing?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, I do still, as I mentioned, I don't have music as my like 100% full-time thing right now. I still have a day job that, I mean, like I said, it's not full day Monday to Friday, but it takes up some time. But actually, there's a part of me that sees one benefit in that, like that's kind of my time away from thinking about music. I would love to be able to think about music 100% of the time every day, but in some ways I see a kind of silver lining in it, and I'm not saying I want to continue with this like day job for the rest of my life. I'm definitely not, but but there is one silver lining in it, is that it is some downtime away from, you know, listening to, digging for tunes or making music. It kind of actually gives me energy to go and then really, when I'm done at like 2-3 p.m. or something, to okay, now I've got like the whole afternoon, the whole evening to focus on what I really love. And I actually want to focus on it because I've not been able to for the past 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. So that's really, really helpful. And one other really thing that brought a lot of balance into my life is meditation, yoga, and recently pranayama. Okay. Which breathing or? Yeah. It's only something I started with my partner. We started, well, she bought a course and I kind of snuck onto it. Tagged along. It's perfect. But yeah, that's, I mean, I've been into yoga on and off for about 2 to 3 years. It's intensified a bit more in the past year, where I've actually stuck to a routine of doing it, which, because I found it really, really helps. Yeah. Just for focus and creativity. I'd never heard of pranayama before until about 2 months ago, and then my girlfriend bought a course, and then I kind of was like, oh, do you want to send over the YouTube link? I'll try it out. I tried it out once and felt an immediate impact. Nervous system reset, or like? Yeah, and like I did it was only a warm-up thing. It was like a 10-minute warm-up pranayama thing, like an introduction. Oh yeah, it's crazy. But then there was a whole explanation around it and stuff from the teacher, and I've been doing it. I got ill last week, so I didn't do it last week, but every other day that I've been healthy, I've done it, and in the morning, along with some yoga in the beginning to warm up. And honestly, I've been feeling great. Yeah, it does have an terrific impact, like immediate on your body. Yeah, your like mind. You literally finish the session and you immediately feel like way more energized, way more clear, really calm, and just like kind of almost like a little weird buzz inside of you to then go and about your day knowing that like everything's all right. Yeah, exactly. But seriously, it's been kind of eye-changing, and it's only been like a few weeks I've been doing it. And completely, it's very immediate, like breathwork, physical, sports in general, but I think breathwork is also a very powerful tool to reset your state. And like I always knew it was, but like it was one of those things that until you really try it, and also do when you've tried it like from a professional showing you how to do it. Yeah. It was kind of really mind-blowing. I think I'm going to probably do it for a long, long time, to be honest. Like, it's been great. Like, why not? It seems like, I mean, it's incredible.
Really
Yeah.
good tool. Yeah.
Have you done it before?
I've done it. I've done a lot of different breathwork
Okay.
types of exercises. I've done a lot of the Wim Hof practice and technique.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
I did
Have you tried
search
it?
about that.
Yeah,
Have you done the ice bath?
a few times, and I was considering to actually take ice baths and do it at home and find a way. I mean, you can find online these like buckets and things you can use. It's just a bit of a pain in the ass, though.
Like I
Why are
tried.
you gonna put a bucket?
Because I wanted to also get into it, but I got recommended, or on his website, he recommended to start off with cold showers
Yeah, I do cold showers. Yeah, I do that for 10 years almost.
in winter.
In winter too. Yeah,
Like I tried it in
Yeah.
winter for like 2 weeks,
yeah,
and afterwards it's nice,
yeah.
but but the initial like
It's
like because
fucking
also
intense.
at the moment, like, I mean, this is ridiculous, but like my shower curtains broke. My cat destroyed my shower curtain, and I haven't put it back up. So like for the past like a couple of weeks, I've been like when I take a shower, I actually just sit down and just like shower
Yeah.
myself. And doing cold showers when you're in control of the like of the shower head with your like you're just holding it above your head. You're like, okay, I've got to go to the cold water now, and you're just like, ah.
Yeah.
But I have to. I mean, I want to maybe try it properly. So
Mhm.
like the actual ice baths at some point.
Yeah.
Because I think I might be a bit. I'm not saying it would be easier, but I think it would just be a bit more accepting because the cold shower thing is.
It's so I don't know how to compare them, but one of my best friends does ice baths now on a daily basis or almost after sport.
Okay.
And he says, I cannot do a cold shower, but I can do an ice bath. And
Yeah,
he said
yeah.
for similar reasons. It's like, it just, this feels like torture.
Yeah.
Torturing myself.
Exactly.
But I
Like,
can mess
you
myself
are torturing yourself. You've got it like
Yeah.
hung over your head, and you're just like, oh my god. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, but yeah, I haven't tried an ice
Yeah.
bath.
And by the way, one thing that I changed and made it much better, and I've realized I think that's actually you're supposed to do. You shouldn't do it. You should keep the neck and the head out of the cold.
Oh.
Because if you do it like this, it's really fucking tough. You should do it from shoulders down. You should the cold.
Oh,
I did it for
okay.
years with the full thing, and at some point you're like, the air is freezing during the winter. Your neck, and then you get sick much more.
And my flat is super cold in winter as well.
Yeah.
Like it's not insulated very well. So
Yeah,
like
brilliant.
with this cold shower, it was the worst thing. Like I really tried and persevered for like 2 weeks. And I was like, at the end I was like, you know what? I just want to.
I love myself.
I just want a warm shower. I don't want to kill myself anymore. But I think you might be right, and your friend might be right. The ice bath might actually be slightly.
Yeah,
Your body might accept it a bit more.
maybe. Yeah.
Or no, sorry, not your body. Your mind might accept
Your
it
mind,
a
yeah.
bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels less of. I think the psychological thing of being I'm torturing myself. It's real.
Like, but I'm guessing your shower head is like, you can just stand right under it, or do you have to hold
so
it as well?
My shower is broken for 1 year now.
Oh,
Literally to this day, it broke like 1 year ago, and I'm having troubles with insurance.
no.
So I'm still waiting for the fucking insurance to pay for someone to come. It's very hard in Berlin to find someone that can come and fix it. So I have a bath and I have a shower head.
Yeah,
So
it's
I need
exactly
to
the same
shower.
with mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
yeah. So we've been torturing ourselves in the same way.
Sitting down like, shaking. Wim Hof.
Yeah, Wim Hof, you bastards. Oh, it's funny.
Jack, this has been super fun. I'm going to ask you a few questions before we wrap up. If you had to choose one closing track for the rest of your life, what would that be?
Can I pick the Fan and Flowers track that I finished at Cape
Yeah.
Town with?
Perfect.
Can't remember the track name. It's on Consequent Records.
Okay. Fun and
Because
fun.
everyone's expecting you to play like an electro track or something, and then you just go, "Nah, fuck it."
Punch.
I'll go with that for now because I can't think of another one.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
the first one that comes to mind.
Perfect. And if you're stuck on an island, deserted island for 10 days, you can choose one person that has to be an artist, dead or alive, person you know or you don't know, could be musician or not. Who would you choose and why?
David Attenborough,
Okay.
the
Documentaries, right?
the BBC documentarist. He's a bit of a icon in the UK.
Yeah.
just because he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
And like,
And the voice would
and
make
like,
you feel
and the
like,
voice would be like, okay, I can go to bed. Yeah,
Wow,
Yeah.
very cool.
David Attenborough.
Very cool. Can you sing aloud one of your latest tracks?
Released or unreleased?
Unreleased.
No, I can't. Did you say unreleased or released? Sorry.
Unreleased or released, yeah.
Unreleased. I mean, I did just make a track that has just a kick drum
Mm-hmm.
and one synth.
Wow.
So it's just boom, 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 boom for 4.5 minutes.
And the synth?
The synth is like one. It's just one pad, but actually just the same chord.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's. I can't really remember the pitch in my head, but it's like if I can whistle it, like.
Okay, perfect.
I mean, no one like you're not gonna know what the hell this track sounds like. It's gonna come out in like October, and you're gonna be like, okay.
What is that? I love it. we will link them. And would you rather play in front of 10,000 people, so massive stadium, like, you know, let's say a big stadium, 10,000 people, but you're so removed that you cannot connect with any of them, or 50 close friends in a room, in a small room?
Definitely 50 close friends.
50 close friends.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And what is one guilty pleasure track of yours?
Guilty pleasure track. Well, before I got into electronic music, I was very into like punk and like
Mm-hmm.
almost like hardcore and like metal music. And I've always like said to myself, is there any way I could ever put in a track like by one of these like bands or something that I really, and the answer at the moment is no, I don't think I could drop it. But there's a really good track called, and it's not really a guilty pleasure because it's actually, I honestly, I've never really been into like a lot of pop music and stuff. But it's just a really, really good track by Soft Cell. It's called Memorabilia.
Memorabilia, okay.
And it's not, you could actually probably play that in a set actually. It's not really like a guilty pleasure in terms of like a cheesy guilty pleasure track, because I don't really listen to a lot of like mainstream music. I haven't in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say something like one of my childhood bands, like, I don't know, like a Linkin Park track or something. Probably you'd put it on and I'd be like, you know what, this is all right.
It's actually cool.
Yeah.
Memorabilia.
But that's just a really good like kind of crossover between pop and punk.
Very cool. And this is like the last two questions. One thing or project you are excited about for your near future?
I just finished an album. My own album.
On your own, right? This is like different from the one we were saying, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, completely different. Can't say where or when right now, but yeah, it will come out at some point, hopefully this year. Let's see.
Exciting, nice.
I'm very excited about that because it's the way, or it's actually a whole album that when I listen to it, I'm like, okay, this is the type of techno that I like. And I've managed to somehow put that into, I think it's 8 tracks. Yeah, it's 8 tracks. And yeah, I'm super excited about that.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks.
That's great.
Cheers.
Looking forward to hearing it.
Sure. There's going to be that track that I tried to sing.
Okay. Even more now. Very cool. And we have a closing tradition. What's one question we should ask one of the next guests?
Could be anything, like music related?
Anything, yeah. Or beyond.
Do you already ask the singing track?
Yes.
You already asked it, okay. What's their favorite type of non-alcoholic drink?
Favorite type of non-alcoholic drink? Okay, perfect.
It's not that exciting question, but
okay, good. And there's a question for you. What do you think is the next trend within techno?
next trend. Are we already out of the the last one already. It's time for a new one.
It may happen in 10 years.
One thing I think that has been kind of around for maybe a year or so now, but it's definitely accelerating, is the return of this like hard groove tribally stuff. Some of it's all right. Like, you know, the older I've a ton of older records in this style, but I think that's definitely making more kind of waves at the moment.
Growing,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's kind of already started, but
Regrowing,
it's accelerating, I think. So lots of bongos and congas and stuff.
Yeah, not all the art group, but I personally, I'm really liking the new tribal. This kind of
like I said, some of it's actually pretty decent. I've been buying some of it, to be honest. I wouldn't say it's the worst trend we've ever had.
Pretty good. I'm happy.
But yeah, I'm definitely seeing it being more and more widely around at the moment.
And after that?
I think I was going to say, I think at some point, and I don't know when, but I think at some point we're going to have a return to minimal.
Wow.
Depending on what type of minimal, it could make or break it for me. Because, like, you know, if it goes back to like the Robert Hood style minimal, I'll be super happy.
Yeah.
But if we go to very techie minimal, then let's see.
We'll see. Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. But that's just my opinion.
Jack, thank you. This has been super fun.
Yeah,
great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been really good.
Amazing. And we will be looking forward to the album and the new tracks being released.
Yeah, amazing.
Amazing.
Hope you like it.
Thank you.